welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're going to be tackling some fascinating chapters from the book of Joshua.
Okay.
Specifically, chapters 1 through 24 read from the New International Version UK Audio Bible found on the God's Able YouTube channel.
All right.
You know, the book of Joshua is full of leadership lessons and epic battles.
Yeah.
And even some tricky moral questions that make you really think.
Mm-hmm.
So buckle up.
Okay.
We're going to uncover some truly insightful nuggets from this ancient text.
What's fascinating is how the book of Joshua picks up the story.
Okay.
Moses, the iconic leader who brought the Israelites out of Egypt, has died.
Right.
And now it's Joshua's turn to lead them into the promised land.
It's like a torch being passed, isn't it?
It is.
And that's not an easy act to follow.
No.
But God doesn't just leave Joshua hanging.
Right.
He gives him a powerful promise in Joshua 1.3. I will give you every place where you set your foot.
Wow.
Talk about a confidence booster.
Right. It shows the immense trust God places in Joshua. But it's more than just conquering territory.
Okay.
There's a huge emphasis on courage and following God's law as the keys to success. In fact, the phrase, be strong and courageous, comes up several times in these opening chapters.
It's almost like God is giving Joshua and us, by extension, a pep talk.
Right.
Like, you've got what it takes, but you've got to stick to the plan.
Exactly.
So with God's pep talk ringing in his ears, how does Joshua approach this enormous task? Does he just charge right in?
He's strategic about it.
Okay.
First, he sends spies to Jericho, which was a heavily fortified city and a major obstacle.
Right.
This is where we meet a fascinating character.
Okay, Rahab.
Rahab, right.
Yeah.
Not your typical heroine in a biblical narrative.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
She's a prostitute
Yeah.
who surprisingly shows incredible faith in the God of Israel.
Interesting.
She risks her own life to hide the spies because she believes in their God's power.
And that act of faith leads to a powerful symbol.
Yes.
The scarlet cord, right?
Yes.
She hangs it from her window.
A sign for the Israelites to spare her and her household during the attack.
Yes. The scarlet cord becomes a visual reminder of God's grace reaching beyond societal norms to those we might least expect.
Wow.
It's a testament to the fact that faith can bloom in unexpected places, and God's protection extends to anyone who trusts in him.
It makes you wonder how many Rahabs are out there.
Right.
People whose faith goes unnoticed because they don't fit the mold.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder not to judge a book by its cover, so to speak.
Yeah.
And to be open to the diverse ways faith manifests itself.
Right.
But back to Jericho, with the spies safely back and Rahab's scarlet cord in place. How do the Israelites tackle this seemingly impregnable city?
This is where the story takes a turn for the, well, unusual.
Yeah.
They don't exactly use conventional warfare tactics, do they?
Not at all. God instructs them to march around the city once a day for 6 days.
Okay.
With priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant, that sacred chest containing the tablets of the 10 Commandments,
Right.
blowing trumpets. Okay. And then on the 7th day, they're to march around 7 times.
Yeah.
Blow the trumpets and shout.
So essentially a lot of marching and trumpet blowing. Not exactly the shock and awe you'd expect in a military campaign.
Right.
But I'm guessing there's a reason for this seemingly strange strategy.
Yeah.
What happens next?
The impossible.
Okay.
The walls of Jericho collapse.
Wow.
It's a miraculous victory demonstrating God's power in a way no human army ever could.
Yeah.
It solidifies the Israelites' faith and sends a clear message to the surrounding nations.
Okay.
Don't mess with these people.
It's a powerful reminder, isn't it?
It is.
That with faith, even the most insurmountable obstacles can crumble. But this victory at Jericho, it's just the beginning, right?
It is.
There's a whole lot more land to conquer, and I'm guessing the journey isn't all smooth sailing.
You're right. There are more battles to be fought, more land to claim.
Right.
And as with any journey, there are bumps along the way.
Well, let's dive into those bumps then.
Right.
What happens after Jericho?
The Israelites move on to conquer Ai,
Right.
another strategic city. But this time, things don't go so smoothly.
Oh.
They experience a defeat.
Wow.
A surprising setback after their stunning victory at Jericho.
You'd think they'd be invincible after that Jericho miracle. What caused this sudden reversal of fortune?
It boils down to human weakness,
Okay.
even amidst divine intervention.
Okay.
One man, Achan, disobeys God's command and takes some of the valuable items from Jericho
Okay.
that were supposed to be completely destroyed.
Right.
This act of greed has dire consequences for the whole army.
It's a powerful reminder that even after witnessing incredible displays of God's power,
Yes.
humans are still prone to temptation and making bad choices.
It's a sobering thought, isn't it?
It is.
And it highlights the importance of individual accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Achan's sin had a ripple effect impacting the entire community.
Right.
It's a theme that resonates even today. Our choices can have far-reaching consequences, for good or for bad.
So how do the Israelites recover from this setback at AI? Do they just give up and go home?
Not a chance.
Okay.
They realize something is wrong.
Okay.
And Joshua seeks God's guidance.
Mm-hmm.
God reveals Achan's sin.
Right.
Justice is served.
Okay.
And the Israelites, having learned a tough lesson about the importance of obedience,
Yeah.
eventually conquer AI.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It is.
They experience a miraculous victory, then a crushing defeat.
Yeah.
All because of one man's disobedience.
Right.
It really highlights the precarious balance between human choice and divine favor.
Yes.
But after Jericho and Ai, you'd think the surrounding nations would be terrified of the Israelites and their God.
You would? Surprisingly, no.
Really?
Some of them got pretty creative in trying to avoid a direct confrontation. Take the Gibeonites, for example.
The Gibeonites. They're the ones who pulled a fast one on the Israelites, right?
They did. They pretended to be from a faraway land,
Uh-huh.
coming to the Israelites with worn-out clothes, moldy bread,
Oh, wow.
and patched up sandals to make their story believable.
Okay.
They basically tricked the Israelites into a peace treaty.
I can't believe the Israelites fell for that.
I know, it's kind of funny.
I mean, they were supposed to be guided by God.
Right.
It's almost comical, the lengths the Gibeonites went to.
It does have a touch of irony, doesn't it?
It does.
But it's also a reminder that even those who follow God are still human,
Right?
prone to deception and misjudgments.
So what happened when the Israelites discovered the truth about the Gibeonites?
Oh, they were furious.
Okay.
Understandably.
Yeah.
But they had sworn an oath before God to honor the treaty,
Okay.
even though it was based on a lie.
Right.
The Israelite leaders, demonstrating integrity and respect for their word, decided to keep the treaty.
It's a tricky situation, isn't it?
It is.
It highlights the tension between faith diplomacy and the complexities of dealing with those who might not be trustworthy. It kind of makes you think about situations in our own lives where we're faced with moral dilemmas. Do we stick to our principles even when it's difficult?
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's a question that resonates across time and cultures.
it does.
What's fascinating is that this story raises questions about the nature of truth itself.
Oh, interesting.
How much does perception influence reality?
Mm-hmm.
The Gibeonites' success in deceiving the Israelites reveals how easily appearances can be manipulated.
Yeah.
And it makes you think about how discerning truth from falsehood is a challenge we still face today.
Okay, so we've got spies, a miraculous conquest, a lesson in obedience, and now a tricky treaty.
Right.
The book of Joshua certainly isn't lacking in drama.
No, it isn't.
What else is in store for the Israelites on their quest for the Promised Land?
Well, if you thought the story of Jericho was a bit out there, get ready for this.
Okay.
The Israelites find themselves up against a coalition of 5 Amorite kings.
5.
5.
Wow.
Talk about a formidable force.
That sounds like they're in for a tough battle.
Yeah.
What happens? Do they try the marching and trumpet strategy again?
That would have been interesting to see.
Yeah.
But no, this battle takes an even more extraordinary turn. During the fight, Joshua, in a moment of incredible faith and audacity, commands the sun to stand still.
Wait a minute. He told the sun to stop. Now that's what I call thinking outside the box.
It is.
But did it actually work? Did the sun just freeze in the sky?
According to the text, yes.
Wow.
The sun and the moon stopped giving the Israelites more daylight hours to defeat their enemies.
Okay, that's just mind-blowing.
I know.
It defies all logic and scientific understanding.
Right.
It really underscores Joshua's unwavering faith.
Yes.
He wasn't afraid to ask for the impossible.
It's a moment that has captivated readers and sparked debate for centuries.
I bet.
Some interpret this event literally
Okay.
as a divine intervention that altered the course of nature.
Right.
Others see it as a poetic expression highlighting the magnitude of the victory and the intensity of Joshua's faith.
Okay.
Either way, it's a powerful story that speaks to the potential of faith to move mountains, or, in this case, celestial bodies.
It certainly makes you ponder the limits of human understanding.
Right.
And the mysteries of God's power.
Yes.
So after this incredible victory, are the Israelites finally home free?
Yo.
Is the Promised Land within their grasp.
They've certainly made significant progress.
Okay.
They've conquered major cities and defeated powerful enemies.
Right.
But the journey isn't over yet.
Oh.
There's still the matter of dividing the land among the 12 tribes of Israel.
Ah, the land division.
Yeah,
That sounds like a logistical nightmare.
it was.
I can imagine the arguments and disputes that must have erupted.
I'm sure.
How did they ever manage to sort it all out?
Well, it was a multifaceted approach.
Okay.
God had already provided general guidelines through Moses
Right.
about which areas should belong to which tribes,
Okay.
but the specifics.
The drawing of boundaries and allocation of specific plots
Yeah.
was determined through a system of casting lots.
Casting lots. That sounds a bit like rolling the dice.
It does.
Leaving it up to chance.
It was a common practice in ancient times,
Okay.
a way of discerning divine will.
Mm-hmm.
They believed that God was guiding the outcome, even though it appeared random on the surface.
So a mix of divine guidance and a bit of chance.
Yes.
Like a divinely guided lottery.
Right.
Were there any particularly interesting stories that came out of this land division?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
There are a few that stand out.
Okay.
One involves Caleb,
Okay.
one of the original spies sent into Canaan 40 years prior.
Right.
You'll remember, he and Joshua were the only two who came back with a positive report,
Uh-huh.
urging the Israelites to trust God and enter the promised land.
Caleb, the one who kept the faith when everyone else was ready to turn back,
Yes.
he must have been quite a character.
He was. And even at the ripe old age of 85.
Caleb still had that adventurous spirit.
Okay.
He approaches Joshua and boldly requests the hill country of Hebron as his inheritance.
85 and still going strong. He wasn't afraid of a challenge.
No, he wasn't.
What was it about Hebron that made it so desirable?
It was known for its fortified cities,
Yep.
and it wasn't going to be an easy territory to conquer.
Right?
But Caleb, remembering the promise God had made to him 40 years earlier,
Right.
was confident that with God's help, he could overcome any obstacle.
It's a powerful example of faith and perseverance.
It is.
And did Joshua grant his request?
He did. Joshua, recognizing Caleb's lifelong faithfulness and courage, granted him his wish.
Wow.
It's a testament to the idea that unwavering trust in God can lead to extraordinary outcomes,
Right.
even in the face of what might seem impossible.
It's a message that resonates with us today, isn't it?
Yes.
That those who stay true to their faith and follow God's leading even when it's tough often find themselves rewarded in ways they couldn't have imagined. But the land division wasn't just about individual allotments.
Right.
It also involved setting aside specific areas for specific purposes, right?
That's right.
Okay.
For instance, there were the cities of refuge.
Okay.
6 cities strategically located throughout the land.
Okay.
These were safe havens for those who accidentally killed someone.
So a kind of ancient sanctuary system.
Yes.
What was the purpose of these cities of refuge?
They were designed to prevent acts of revenge,
Okay.
to ensure that justice was carried out fairly.
Right.
In ancient Israel, if someone accidentally killed another person,
Yeah.
the victim's family had a right to seek revenge.
Okay.
But if the killer could reach a city of refuge, they were protected and could plead their case before the elders.
It's fascinating how this ancient legal system tried to balance the need for justice with compassion and understanding for human fallibility.
Yes.
It speaks to a desire to prevent endless cycles of revenge.
Right.
But while the other tribes were receiving their land inheritances, there was one group that was treated differently,
Yeah.
right? The Levites.
Yes, the Levites, the priestly tribe.
Right.
They were dedicated to serving God and the people in religious matters
Okay.
because of their unique role.
Yeah.
They didn't receive a land inheritance in the traditional sense.
So how were they provided for?
And
Did they just wander around relying on the generosity of others?
No, they were given cities to live in, scattered throughout the territories of the other tribes.
Oh, okay.
This ensured that they were present throughout the land
Yeah.
to fulfill their religious duties and serve the spiritual needs of the people.
It's interesting how the Israelites recognized the importance of the Levites' role by providing for them in this way.
It is.
It shows a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of the community
Right.
and the value of their spiritual leaders,
Yes.
but with such a complex process as dividing up an entire land.
Right.
Surely there were some disagreements, right?
There was one incident that almost caused a civil war.
Oh my goodness.
The tribes of Reuben, Gad, and half the tribe of Manasseh,
Okay.
who had received their inheritance east of the Jordan River,
Mm-hmm.
built a massive altar near the river.
Oh wow. That must have sent alarm bells ringing.
It did.
Why would they do such a thing? Were they trying to start their own religion?
That was the fear.
Okay.
The other tribes saw it as a potential act of idolatry,
Right.
a rejection of the centralized worship of God at the tabernacle.
It's understandable why they would jump to that conclusion.
Right.
Building an altar was a significant act, a symbol of worship.
Yes.
But, hold on. Weren't these the same tribes that had fought alongside the others to conquer the Promised Land?
They were.
What was their explanation for this seemingly rebellious act?
Before jumping to conclusions and launching into a full-blown war,
Okay.
the other tribes sent a delegation to investigate,
Okay.
and it's a good thing they did.
Okay.
As it turned out, the Reubenites, Gadites, and Manasseites had a completely different intention in mind.
Communication is key, isn't it?
It is.
So many conflicts could be avoided if people just talk to each other.
I agree.
So what was their explanation for this mysterious altar?
They explained that the altar wasn't intended for offering sacrifices,
Okay.
wasn't meant to rival the tabernacle
Well-
or replace the ordained system of worship. Instead,
Yeah.
they had built it as a monument,
Okay.
a symbol of unity,
Mhm.
and a reminder of their connection to God and the other tribes.
Right.
They feared that in the future generations to come might forget their shared history
Ah.
and claim that they didn't belong.
That's actually quite touching.
Yeah, it is.
They wanted future generations to see that altar and remember their shared heritage, their common faith,
Right.
and the bonds that united them as a nation.
Yes.
What a powerful testament to the importance of preserving those ties that bind us together.
It is.
So it was all a big misunderstanding.
Exactly.
Right.
A misunderstanding that could have had disastrous consequences.
Right.
But cooler heads prevailed.
Yeah.
Communication won the day. And potential conflict was averted.
That's good.
It's a powerful reminder that clear communication and a willingness to understand different perspectives are essential for maintaining unity and peace.
It's a lesson that's just as relevant today, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
So often conflicts arise from miscommunication,
Right.
from jumping to conclusions without fully understanding the other side's perspective.
Yeah.
The story of the altar is a powerful reminder to pause, listen,
Uh-huh.
and seek clarification before reacting.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
It's a valuable lesson for any relationship, whether
Wow.
between individuals, communities, or even nations.
But with the land divided and this potential conflict resolved,
Yeah.
let's move on to a poignant moment in the book of Joshua, Joshua's farewell address.
Okay.
Years of leading the Israelites through conquest and settlement, he now prepares to say goodbye.
Right.
Ah, yes. Joshua's farewell speech.
Yes.
I can only imagine the weight of those words.
I know.
The culmination of a lifetime of leadership,
Right.
faith, and experience.
Yes.
What message did he want to impart to the Israelites as he prepared to leave them?
It was a message that blended warnings with encouragement.
Yeah.
A heartfelt plea for them to stay true to their covenant with God. He reminded them of God's faithfulness,
Right.
how he had delivered them from slavery in Egypt,
Okay.
brought them through the wilderness, and given them victory over their enemies.
Yeah.
He urged them not to forget all that God had done for them.
It's almost as if he's saying, don't take this for granted. Remember where you came from and who brought you here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He wanted to instill in them a deep sense of gratitude for God's blessings.
Okay.
But he also knew that human nature is fickle.
Right.
That even after experiencing God's miraculous power,
Yeah.
people can easily be lured away by other temptations.
So he issued some warnings too.
He did. He cautioned them against falling into the trap of idolatry,
Okay.
the worship of other gods. He saw how easily the surrounding nations had been seduced by false gods.
And wanted to protect the Israelites from that same fate.
He was essentially saying, don't be distracted by shiny objects. Stay focused on the one true God who has been faithful to you.
Exactly.
But there was another warning, wasn't there?
There was.
Something about intermarriage.
Yes.
Okay.
Joshua knew that if the Israelites intermarried with the Canaanites,
Right.
they would be exposed to their religious practices and beliefs,
Yeah.
increasing the risk of straying from their own faith.
Right.
He urged them to remain distinct,
Okay.
to preserve their identity as God's chosen people.
It's a reminder of the challenges of maintaining one's faith and cultural identity in a diverse and often tempting world.
It is.
It's something that many people still grapple with today.
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance
Yeah.
between being open to the world around us
Right.
while staying true to our core values and beliefs.
But Joshua's farewell speech wasn't just about warnings.
Yeah.
It was also a powerful affirmation of his own faith.
And a challenge to the Israelites to make a choice.
Right.
What kind of choice?
He laid it out clearly.
Okay.
Choose this day whom you will serve, but as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord.
Powerful words.
Powerful words.
He wasn't forcing them into anything.
Right.
He was giving them the freedom to choose, but he was also making his own stance clear. He was all in with God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was a powerful act of leadership.
It was.
Leading by example and encouraging the Israelites to make a conscious, deliberate decision to follow God. His words echoed through the generations, inspiring countless others to make that same commitment to faith and obedience.
It's a reminder that true leadership isn't about coercion.
Right.
It's about inspiration.
Yes.
It's about standing firm in your own convictions and inviting others to join you on the journey.
Absolutely.
But this farewell speech, as moving as it is,
Yeah.
it's not the end of the stories, is it?
No, there are still a few more significant events to unfold in the book of Joshua, events that wrap up the narrative and bring us to the close of this chapter in Israel's history. You know, it's interesting how Joshua's farewell speech, while addressing the Israelites of his time, also speaks to us today.
Right.
His message about choosing whom we will serve resonates across the centuries.
It does.
We're constantly faced with choices that shape our lives, decisions about what we prioritize, what values we embrace, and ultimately what or whom we choose to follow.
It's like he's holding up a mirror to us, isn't it?
It is.
Challenging us to examine our own hearts and make those choices with intentionality and conviction.
Exactly.
But after delivering this powerful speech, what happens to Joshua? Does he fade into the background, or does the book tell us more about his final days?
The book tells us that after living a long and fruitful life, Joshua dies at the age of 110.
110 years old. That's an incredible lifespan.
It is.
He truly witnessed a remarkable chapter in Israel's history.
He did.
From their exodus from Egypt
Right.
to their conquest of Canaan.
Yes.
But after his death, did the Israelites remain faithful to God and the covenant they had made? Did they heed Joshua's warnings and stay true to their faith?
According to the book of Joshua, the generation that witnessed God's miraculous power firsthand remained faithful during their lifetime.
So,
They had seen God's hand at work in their lives,
Yeah.
experienced his deliverance, and witnessed his provision.
Right.
Their faith was deeply rooted in first-hand experience.
it makes sense, doesn't it? When you've personally witnessed extraordinary events,
Yeah.
it's hard to deny the reality
Yeah.
of a power beyond yourself.
Exactly.
But what about the generations that followed?
Right.
The ones who didn't have those firsthand experiences, who only heard the stories passed down through oral tradition.
Right.
Do their faith stand the test of time?
That's a question the book of Judges, which follows Joshua, will explore. It delves into the challenges and triumphs of the Israelites as they navigate life in the Promised Land without Joshua's leadership.
It's a reminder, isn't it?
Yes.
That each generation faces its own unique challenges
It does.
and must grapple with the task of keeping the faith alive. It's not always easy,
No.
especially when the memory of those miraculous events fades
Right.
and new temptations arise.
Yes.
But before we move on to the book of Judges,
Okay.
there are a few more details in the closing chapters of Joshua that I found particularly poignant.
I think I know what you're referring to.
Okay.
The burial of Joseph's bone.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a seemingly small detail
Right.
tucked away near the end of the book,
Yeah.
but it carries so much symbolic weight.
Absolutely. Remember, Joseph was sold into slavery by his own brothers, taken to Egypt,
Right.
and through a series of extraordinary events,
Yeah.
rose to a position of power.
Oh, okay.
He ultimately saved his family from famine and orchestrated their settlement in Egypt,
Right.
setting the stage for their eventual exodus generations later.
It's a story full of twists and turns, betrayal, forgiveness, and ultimately redemption.
Yes, it is.
And throughout his ordeal, Joseph remained faithful to God.
He did.
He recognized God's hand at work, even in the midst of suffering and injustice.
Yeah.
And before he died, he made a request.
Right.
He asked that when the Israelites finally left Egypt for the Promised Land, they would take his bones with them and bury them there.
And even after all those years, the Israelites honored his request.
They did.
They did.
It's a beautiful testament to the importance of keeping promises,
It is.
even across generations.
Yes.
It speaks to the enduring power of family bonds, the significance of honoring our ancestors,
Right.
and the fulfillment of a long-held hope.
Exactly.
It's almost as if Joseph's journey which began in slavery and ended in a position of honor in Egypt,
Yeah.
finds its true completion in the Promised Land.
All right.
His story, in a way, parallels the journey of the Israelites themselves.
You're right. It's a story of exile hardship and ultimately homecoming. It's a reminder that even when life takes unexpected detours,
Yeah.
God's promises remain and his faithfulness endures.
Right.
Joseph's burial in the Promised Land signifies the fulfillment of God's covenant with Abraham,
Yeah.
the culmination of a journey that spanned generations.
It's a powerful and moving ending to the book of Joshua.
It is.
But before we wrap up this deep dive completely, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier.
Okay.
The troubling aspects of the conquest narrative.
Right.
It's something that I know many people struggle with.
Yes.
And I want to acknowledge the difficulty of reconciling those accounts of violence with our modern understanding of a loving and merciful God.
You're right. It's a complex issue, and there's no easy answer.
Right.
It's important to remember that the Bible was written in a different time and cultural context,
Yeah.
where warfare was often brutal,
Right.
and the concept of total war was accepted.
Okay.
We shouldn't shy away from those difficult questions,
Yeah.
but approach them with humility and a willingness to learn and grow in our understanding.
It's about wrestling with the text. Honestly,
Yes.
acknowledging the complexities and challenges it presents, and recognizing that our understanding of God and his ways continues to evolve.
Right.
We may not have all the answers,
Yeah.
but the process of searching, questioning,
Yeah.
and seeking understanding is a valuable part of the faith journey.
Absolutely.
That
It's
we have.
about engaging with the text in a way that is both intellectually honest and spiritually enriching.
Right.
And in that process, we often discover deeper truths about God ourselves and the world around us.
Well said.
Thank you.
So as we conclude this deep dive into the book of Joshua,
Yes.
what final thought would you leave our listeners with?
I'd say this. The book of Joshua is more than just an ancient history book.
Okay.
It's a story that speaks to us today, challenging us to think about leadership, faith, obedience,
Yeah.
the complexities of morality,
Right.
and the enduring power of God's promises. Don't be afraid to engage with it honestly, to ask tough questions, and to see how its message resonates with your own life experiences.
It's a book full of epic battles and miraculous events.
Yes,
But it's also a book about the human condition,
it is.
the struggles we face, the choices we make,
Right.
and the hope we find in a God who is faithful even when we are not.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the book of Joshua. We hope you've gained new insights and found something to ponder as you continue your own exploration of this fascinating and challenging text.
And the book wraps up with a few final events,
Okay.
like the death and burial of Joshua.
Right.
And we also see the continued faithfulness of Israel during the lifetimes of the elders who had witnessed God's power firsthand.
So they stayed true to the covenant.
They did. At least for a while.
Makes sense, I guess.
Yeah,
It's easier to believe when you've seen it with your own eyes.
exactly.
Anything else that stands out in these final chapters?
Well, there's the burial of Joseph's bones at Shechem.
Oh, yeah. I remember that story.
It's a really interesting detail, isn't it?
It is. It always stuck with me for some reason.
It's like this thread that runs through the whole story.
Right. It's like a promise being fulfilled after all these years.
Exactly. You know, Joseph's story is kind of a microcosm of Israel's journey,
Yeah, I see that.
starting with hardship and betrayal, but ultimately ending in God's blessing.
And homecoming.
Right. And remember his request to be buried in the Promised Land.
Yeah, it was like he knew it would happen.
Like he had faith even when things were tough.
It's inspiring.
It
It's
is.
a good reminder for us, too,
Yeah,
to hold on to hope even when we can't see the end.
absolutely. It's a testament to God's faithfulness across generations.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
We've covered a lot of ground, from battles and miracles to tough moral questions.
And some pretty interesting leadership lessons.
Yeah, Joshua was quite a leader.
He was.
I mean, navigating all those challenges.
Taking on that responsibility after Moses.
Right. That couldn't have been easy.
Not at all. But his faith was unwavering.
And his obedience to God's commands.
That was key.
Even when those commands seemed a little unusual.
Yeah, like marching around a city for 7 days.
Exactly. Who had thought that would work?
Cut. It did. And it shows us that God's ways are not always our ways.
Well, this deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
And I hope it's done the same for our listeners.
I hope so.
The book of Joshua is full of timeless truths and valuable lessons.
And it raises some thought-provoking questions that we can still wrestle with today.
Absolutely. So thanks for joining us on this journey through the book of Joshua.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive, and we encourage you to continue exploring this amazing text for yourself.